Show me the money.
Hey, it's me. Knock, knock. So, you got my money?
Think of that. You're dealing with numbers all day long. Decimal points, high frequencies, bang, bang, bang. Digits, all very acidic, above the shoulders mustard shit. Right? Kind of wake some people out. Right? You gotta feed the geese to keep the blood flowing. I keep the rhythm below the belt.
I want to stay in Arizona. I want my new contract. Show me the money! Jerry, you better yell! Show me the money!
Where's my money? You gonna give me my money? Where's my money, man?
Welcome to a new episode of Cap Strapped. I'm Max Dean, and you can find me on Twitter at PanAmFootball. Today we're going to be talking all about the Aaron Rodgers contract situation with Green Bay and some of the salary cap implications for Green Bay if he's traded, as well as what would happen to the team that were to pick him up. We'll explore some of the reasons why we might have gotten here with the relationship between Rodgers and Green Bay and speculate on a few other things as well. Before we get started, for a quick heads up about what's going to be happening for the future of Pan Am football, we're diving headlong back into production. So, after a couple of weeks of doing some research, so a few weeks from now, we are going to be launching our team-by-team breakdown, and we're marrying together the Pan Am Football Show, the PAF Draft Hub, as well as Cap Strapped. So, for the Pan Am Football Show, we're going to be doing generalized overviews of each division in kind of a more just fun, lighthearted way. And then in the same week for the PAF Draft Hub, the plan is to do detailed breakdowns of what every single team in the league does under their current regime in regards to how they stack up against the other teams. So, for example, we're going to be looking at how many draft picks per year does a team have on average, and how does that stack up against all of the other teams in the league? How many picks do they have in the top 3 rounds per year, and how does that stack up against the rest of the league? How many picks do they use on premium positions in the top 3 rounds, and so on and so forth, and a ton of statistical representation. So you'll have a really good idea of, hey, I feel like my team doesn't address the offensive line enough. I feel like my team doesn't address the defensive line enough. They don't get enough pass rushers. Well, now you're going to see really and truly where they fall in regards to every other team in the league. And then on Capstrapped, we're going to be doing similar things, but we're going to be breaking down where teams are investing in linebackers, in defensive ends, in cornerbacks. And we're going to compare those to all of the other teams in the league as well. So you're going to get a really good idea of what exactly is the strategy that your team employs compared to everybody else. And so ideally, that week will include, say, the NFC North for the Pan Am Football Show, and then we'll have the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears, and the Lions matched up in their draft tendencies for the PAF Draft Hub, and then at the end of the week, we'll have Capstrap, where we're going to be doing deep dives into the salary cap of each of those teams as well. So, if you have questions, if you want something to be included in your team's breakdown, let me know. We still have a few weeks till we really start doing that, but I'm doing all the research right now, and it's going really well. So, that being said, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. First and foremost, as always, I get all of my numbers from overthecap.com and spotrac.com, so always appreciate that resource. Now, Aaron Rodgers was reported to be wanting out, and that came out on the first morning of the first round of the draft. Unfortunately, it's a little bit complicated for the Packers to actually engage in a trade with anybody, and I'll talk about why that is. Aaron Rodgers is not the easiest guy to deal with, from what I can tell. I don't want to cast blame on anyone's side without really knowing too much, but I do get the feeling that he doesn't really want to find a resolution. Back when they drafted Jordan Love in the first round, I actually thought that was a pretty good move. And in general, I've liked what Brian Gutekunst has done and what the Packers have done since he came in there, or since he took over that role, because I believe he was already there. But Aaron Rodgers does not agree, obviously. And I think the majority of that actually comes from the Jordan Love situation. Now, I don't think he's as frustrated with this lack of drafting playmakers and offensive talent and not being surrounded by enough, because I think overall the team is pretty good. I mean, you have to have a good defense too, and they've made investments there. But, I think that he responded to that draft pick with an incredible season. And basically they said, okay, if that's how you can play, that's how you're going to play, then we may have to chalk up the Jordan Love pick to a loss. But we're not necessarily committing to that yet. We're going to see. So, to mend fences, they wanted to offer him a contract extension. Now, my guess is, like most or all 38, 39, 40-year-old players in the league, they offered him somewhere in the realm of $25 million per year on that extension. I suppose it could have been higher, but probably not that much higher. That was what Tom Brady signed for when he went to Tampa. That's what he just got extended for, even after winning a Super Bowl. It's what Drew Brees signed for. Phillip Rivers with the Colts. I mean, that is the going rate for a quarterback of that age. So my guess is what they did is they went to him. They were going to offer him a bit more guaranteed money, since he doesn't have any more guaranteed money left, and probably an extension in the realm of $25 million per year. I had heard or saw a report that they were going to make him the highest paid quarterback in the league, and I don't buy it. Even if they had a contract that would have, said that on its face value, it would have probably been something like the Alvin Kamara contract, or, obviously not to the same extreme, but basically like what's his name, Taysom Hill contract in New Orleans as well, where it's bloated with money that he's never expected to earn, and is not guaranteed. So it just makes the annual value look really high, even though it's not that. So he probably got upset with what they were actually offering him, and that's why he got to the point of saying, I want the GM fired. If he's really saying that, then that's why. He wants to be honored and cherished, and he wants to probably get rid of Jordan Love and probably get rid of Brian Gutekunst, or get a real contract that's the highest paid in the league. But with his age, it's not likely that he's going to get that kind of offer, especially because he already has 3 years remaining on his contract. Now, the Packers, they went full force into this offseason, thoroughly expecting him to be there. So if he actually was telling free agents that, he's not expecting to be there, that doesn't mesh at all with what the Packers actually went out and did. So the Packers, they kept some guys on the roster that they probably would have, almost assuredly would have moved on from if they were going to move him and go younger at the quarterback position. One would be Preston Smith, another would be Aaron Jones. They never would have brought Aaron Jones back if they weren't keeping Aaron Rodgers around. I'm pretty confident of that. They might not have even kept Zadarius Smith. I haven't looked at his contract, but he could probably have been moved as well. Those guys were brought in a couple of years ago when they were pushing for Super Bowl. They've gotten to the NFC Championship game for 2 years in a row. Those contracts are probably, 2 years and move on, but now they're sticking around for a third year. So the first and foremost thing is the Packers are not really built to move on from the veteran quarterback right now. So they have no interest in doing that. Depending on how much of a stink he raises and how difficult he becomes, they may do it anyway. But I know it's not what they want. But I also don't think they want to just let him, dictate how things are going to go. They're not going to fire Brian Gutekunst just for Aaron Rodgers because he's doing a good job in general. So what would it mean for the Packers to move on from him if it really got down to that situation? Let's take a look here. And I don't have video right now because my video capture device program is not working properly with the audio for some reason. So it is what it is, but you'll be able to see my face again at some point in the coming weeks if you care. But this is the Aaron Rodgers contract. He has base salary, which is not guaranteed for any of his years. The prorated bonus, that's all money he's been paid in previous years, just pushed farther ahead in the cap to make previous years more easy, or more tenable for the salary cap. Then he has a roster bonus, which was already paid by the Green Bay Packers this year because I believe it took effect on the third day of the new league year, which was back in March. So that's already money he's been paid for this upcoming season. Then he's got some workout bonuses, $500,000 per year. Obviously not guaranteed, depends on him working out. And a miscellaneous bonus, which I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's $850,000, and it would move on to the other team if he was traded for. Now, he has a cap hit this year of $37.202 million, and if he were traded right now, that would jump up $1.154 million to a total dead money hit of $38,356,000. The reason for that is because the prorated bonus money always accelerates into the season in which the player is released, retired, or traded. So all of this prorated bonus money over the next 3 years all hits the cap in the same year. So even though the base salary would go to the new team, the prorated bonus stays and hits. So just to sum up, base salary moves to the new team. Workout bonus moves to the new team. Miscellaneous bonus moves to the new team. Prorated bonus paid in previous years stays and accelerates to the current year. And the roster bonus, since it was already paid, Packers are stuck with it. So it's not a previous year's payment, it's this year's payment, but they've already paid it. So they would be stuck with that. So let's look at exactly how that breaks down. So again, everything else has moved on to the new team, but the Packers are stuck with all of this money, which hits the cap this year again, which costs them an additional $1.154 million against the cap. And the Packers are not really in a situation to take additional hits, especially for a player that's not on their team. They're pretty tight on the cap as it is, to the point where they're basically, signing draft picks and they're not going to have anything left over. Now, there is a way to circumvent that accelerated proration. So basically you can avoid the future years all hitting this year, and that would make it a little bit more realistic. So what that's called is a post-June 1st cut. So anytime you hear of a post-June 1st anything, it's always in relation to this concept. It works the same for a cut, a release, whatever you want to call that, or a trade or retirement. So you'll probably maybe hear something about Drew Brees officially retiring after June 1st. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought he retired months ago. Well, he didn't technically. He announced it, but he's not retiring until June 1st, which helps the Saints with the cap situation. So basically, same type of thing here, just for a trade versus a cut. Or a retirement, that is. So what happens is, in a post-June 1st transaction, anything from this year stays in this year. So the prorated bonus and the roster bonus, they stay this year. But anything in future years moves to 1 year forward. So the 2023 money and 2022 money all hits in 2022. This would be the same if it was 2 more years, 3 more years, 4 more years. You can only push it off 1 additional year. So it's not like it stays as it is, but I'll show you here what that looks like. So as you can see, the dead money hit for Aaron Rodgers would actually be $21,152,000 this year. Again, that's the prorated bonus for 2021 and the roster bonus that they already paid. And then in 2022, you would get hit with a $17.204 million dead money charge. And again, that is just the 2022 and 2023 prorated bonus combined. Now, that would be a bit more tenable for the Packers if they really ended up having to do this. It would save them $16,050,000 against the cap this year. So they would actually have more money than they would if they kept him. It's a bit embarrassing to have paid that roster bonus, the $6.8 million roster bonus, only to ship him off. You're basically, a lot of people say, oh, when you have dead money, you're paying a player to be somewhere else. Well, that's not really true. It's more like, it's more like you paid him and you just pushed off the debt into the future a little bit, but the payment was for the year he played. But in this case, that $6.8 million, that's actually like paying him to go play for another team. Either way, financially, it would be possible, although obviously not ideal. Now, let's look at another team or a couple of teams that might actually be able to bring in Aaron Rodgers. So I have 3 teams here. I know the Broncos and the Raiders were talked about and the possibility of him actually going there. I threw in the Washington football team because I think that situationally it would be a really good spot for him. I kind of doubt the Packers want to send him in division, but they're one of the few teams who really needs a quarterback to the point where they would go all in for Rodgers, potentially. I don't know if they really have to, though, because they're building towards something that looks pretty promising. And as good as Rodgers is, it might not be in the best interest to go all in on him, have him for 2 or 3 years, and have no draft picks during that time. It might be wiser to do things at a slower pace. But if they wanted to go for him, they could probably afford it financially, and they could probably, be a good landing spot for him. The Raiders and the Broncos could both make it work. Now, I don't have teams like the Saints or the Eagles, because even though they probably would be very interested in the idea, they simply could not afford him. Even with a big contract renegotiation or restructure to bring him in, I still don't even think they could afford it. I think that they are just straight up out of the race purely because of the cap situation for them. I don't think that you could make that work, personally speaking. Maybe you could, but it would be extremely tight. So I just don't think it's realistic. The Eagles obviously have more draft capital if they really wanted to go down that route, but they probably end up having to cut other guys, and I just don't know if that would work out. And again, same conference, so probably not likely. But what would any of these teams be picking up from Rodgers? from Rodgers' contract. Let's take a look. So again, they bring in everything except for the prorated bonus and the roster bonus. So 3 years worth of base salary, 3 years worth of workout bonuses, and the 1 year of miscellaneous bonus in 2021. So first year, it's an extremely cheap cap hit of only $16.050 million. So $60,050,000. That's crazy cheap for a quarterback. Like crazy cheap. So that could be very enticing. Looking at how low that is, maybe the Eagles could even make that work. So I shouldn't totally exclude them, but I still think it's not super likely. And then the following 2 years after that, $25 million base salary, $500,000 workout bonus for both years. When you look at that all included, they would have him for 3 years at $22.35 million per year. And that's a total steal. I mean, that's even less than, the $25 million that I was talking about before for his age range. Now, he gets paid more than that. Like the final 3 years of his deal, you have to include that $6.8 million roster bonus that the Packers already paid. That's how much he's earning per year, but the new team would only have to take on the $22 million. So that's a very enticing as well. The one thing I would say about that is that if he's really that unhappy, he probably wants a big contract from the new team that he brings in, that brings him in as well. And I would try to project that right now, like I've done with some other stuff, but I couldn't even guess where that might fall. I mean, that could be anywhere from, depending on how desperate a team is, that could be anywhere from, close to the Deshaun Watson type money to, Russell Wilson type money, like the $33 million or $32 million like he had before. It would be so hard to guess what a team would be willing to do if they actually brought him in. So, just in summation, I think anything else is really pure speculation, and this is the one hard, solid thing we can look at. That's the finances of it all. But, I kind of don't think he moves on. I think ultimately it kind of gets sorted out in whatever way. He probably will get an extension. Probably will be a little higher than they offered him, but probably won't be anything close to what he really wants. Probably have some good, hefty guarantees to it. And I just think it's unlikely he moves on. But if he does, I'm not going to say that it's like, would be so shocking. Obviously, it's gotten to this point. But this is what the new team would take on. And as desirable as that looks, I just don't know what kind of contract situation you're going to have to deal with if you do that. And would it be worth it? Maybe he can play till he's 45 too. If he does and he's good, then great. But playing at a high level and post 40 is, even in this new age, is still so unusual. It's still so unusual. I mean, people, I think they think it's normal now, but I don't think it's normal now. I think Brady is a total outlier as far as that goes. And for a player who relies, he's very, very good at dissecting defenses, but for a player who's always played with a heavy reliance on physical ability and arm strength and arm talent, that's going to deteriorate at some point. It's going to fall off a cliff. We saw that kind of stuff with Phillip Rivers. He was good at dissecting defenses, but his style of play relied heavily on arm strength and arm talent, and it just vanished, And I think it's very unusual to see a guy maintain any real semblance of NFL arm strength past 40. So I just wouldn't expect it. I wouldn't bank on it. But yeah, guys, so if you have any questions about Aaron Rodgers, let me know. If you have any other players you want me to do in the next couple of weeks before we dive into the big stuff, let me know. I might talk about some of these guys who were opt-outs last year, and now that they're coming back, what it kind of means for some of their contracts. Might talk about Jawan James, might talk about C.J. Mosley, some of these guys, some of these higher-profile guys who opted out. But yeah, thanks for checking out Cap Strapped, and we'll be back soon with a lot more content. So stay tuned.